Before you treat water with fire chemicals, you first have to treat those chemicals with awareness and respect. Knowing how to work with chemicals safely is paramount to you and the forests you want to protect. The safety and health issues involved can be broken down to human safety, environmental monitoring, risk assessment, and transportation. Let's take a brief look at each. Every approved fire chemical has been tested for toxicity and comes with its own safety data sheet, or SDS. Just because a chemical has an SDS doesn't necessarily mean the chemical is hazardous. It's meant to provide you with general safety information, such as what personal protective equipment is needed when it's used, what the chemical's safe handling practices are, and how to dispose of it properly. You'll find safety data sheets on the Wildland Fire Chemical System website. In addition, be sure to follow the safety directions on the label of the fire chemical container. At a minimum, you should always have the following personal protective equipment on hand when handling any wildfire chemical: long-sleeve shirt and boots, eye goggles when working with liquid concentrates, dust masks when mixing powdered chemicals, and gloves. Then keep these safety tips in mind. Since some chemicals can be irritating to the eyes and skin, make sure you rinse exposed areas immediately with clean water. Creams or lotions can also help alleviate skin irritation. If you inhale or ingest excessive quantities of a fire chemical, make sure you follow its safety data sheet guideline for treatment. And don't forget to consult that same SDS to see if there are other protective equipment requirements for the particular chemicals you plan to use. Last, know that fire chemicals can be extremely slippery, so be aware that falls and serious injury can occur if you're not careful. We also need to take precautions when using them in the environment. All fire chemicals on the qualified products list have been tested and may not exceed certain toxicity criteria for mammalian or aquatic species. Nevertheless, these chemicals can have impacts to aquatic or other species if they're applied directly into water or certain upland habitats. The Forest Service policy states that fire chemicals delivered from air tankers and helicopters may not be applied within 300 feet of a waterway. Policies of other agencies may be different. The Forest Service or other agencies may also identify additional areas for avoidance that are outside these waterway areas. That waterway is defined as any body of water including lakes, rivers, and ponds, regardless of whether they contain aquatic life. There are exceptions to the policy of avoiding aerially delivered chemicals in and near waterways or other identified areas, and these exceptions may vary by land ownership. All firefighters are required to familiarize themselves with local requirements, including the location of any avoidance areas and any exceptions to the avoidance policy. The unit administrator is the only individual who may approve an exception for use and deviation of policy. If a drop occurs, either as an exception or accidentally, within 300 feet of any waterway or in any area that has been identified by an agency for avoidance, such as threatened, endangered, protected, or sensitive species, the event needs to be reported. So how do you report this type of incident? First, you bring it to the attention of your incident commander, your supervisor, and a resource advisor, if present. Anyone who observes one of these events, regardless of agency, can complete the Interagency Wildland Fire Chemical Reporting Form using the online reporting tool found on this website. Additional reporting requirements and site assessment may be needed, so be sure to ensure that a resource advisor or a biologist assigned to the fire is also notified. It is already acknowledged that misapplications and use of the exception are going to occur. That's part of doing our business. However, it's imperative that reporting of these events is documented to further understand if adverse effects may occur. There will be no adverse action or repercussions to employees, fire staff, air operations, or anyone for reporting an event. Also note that if a threatened or endangered species is exposed to fire chemicals, monitoring may be required by your local unit, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or NOAA Fisheries. Another report you should be aware of is a risk assessment. A risk assessment estimates the risks to people and the environment associated with the use of chemicals. These assessments are primarily based on current toxicity literature and studies and are completed on each product on the qualified products list. Is there risk in transporting chemicals? Fire chemicals are not regulated as hazardous by the Department of Transportation, nor is their transportation subject to hazardous material regulations. The last consideration regarding the safe handling of fire chemicals is how to dispose of them properly. Here are some tips. When you clean your equipment, make sure you do so well away from any waterways or riparian areas. When conducting a cleanup operation, take the necessary precautions to minimize and contain any chemical spills. If there is a spill, don't spray water on the concentrates, especially foams and gels. Instead, use absorbent materials, such as kitty litter or sand, to absorb as much of the product as possible before completing the cleanup with water. This material can then be disposed of by putting it all in a garbage bag and placing it in the trash. After the excess chemicals have been removed, make sure you thoroughly rinse your equipment again. Last, remember that fire chemicals can degrade leather, so make sure you keep your clothes and boots clean and maintained. Cleanup is not confined to just you and your equipment, however. If you need to clean up a structure that's been subjected to fire chemicals, you should visit this website for specific instructions. You can also contact the manufacturer of the specific product you used. The USDA and U.S. Forest Service have produced a series of videos that discuss wildland fire chemicals in more depth. We hope you'll view each one to learn more about these important topics. You can also find more details on the Wildland Fire Chemical Systems website. Here you'll find information on safety, environmental issues, product quality, mixing ratios, aerial delivery systems, and other topics related to knowing when and how to use wildland fire chemicals.